Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Pirate Diffusion Show, brought to you by Gradient Platforms. I'm your host, Squibduck, and I am joined by my co-hosts, as usual, Eggs Benadryl and Captain Morgan Freeman. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi-ho!
So today we're going to be talking a little bit about samplers, and then we're going to have a quick beta preview at two new little functions coming for Pirate Diffusion users called After Detailer or Adetailer and Background Replace. Very exciting stuff. But first, yes, more about the holidays. You get anything, Eggs? Did you treat yourself?
Some shoes, socks. That's about it. I bought that little beat maker sampler thing I bought, but that was, a couple weeks before. Treat myself.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's been fun. There was a whole big worry about them becoming rusted, but thankfully mine came all right. I guess it's compatible with like Legos, so you can put a little minifig head on the fader and everything.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
There's a Lego store near me. I thought about going to go get a crazy head.
A Lego store? No way. I heard a quote yesterday. It's there's two kinds of people in the world. There's those who play with Lego and liars.
When you're a kid, you don't realize how expensive those are sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Till you got kids or nieces or nephews or something.
I got myself a pair of hiking crampons for myself and my girlfriend, and we went on a treacherous, icy hike. On a hike that turned out to be treacherous and icy. There was an ice storm the previous night, and it was perfect timing, so we broke them out. Never used them before, but my goodness, we did not fall at all, and it's like a superpower. I'd highly recommend if you're into doing any kind of hiking and you're a bit sketched out on like wet days or cold days. It then snowed like 6 inches last night, and we walked a couple blocks around the neighborhood with them on too, just because we don't trust anything. Don't trust those sidewalks. No need to blow out your knee or anything.
Nothing says Christmas like mortal danger.
Oh my God. If you're going to blow out your knee, at least do it like, defending your home from bad guys or in war or something, not on like the sidewalk out front.
Yeah, for me, it'll be walking into my office in the morning just to ruin my
day. All right. Let's go and talk a little bit about contests. So just to recap what we're talking about here, on Pirate Diffusion in the community, we have monthly challenges. So it's pretty freeform. It's pretty loose and, interpretive. There's just a general theme. And then you just roll with it and come up with up to 5 entries. And there's monetary prizes. There's fame and fortune. There's all that good stuff. And it looks like a free month of unlimited Laura Maker and Pirate Diffusion Plus for winners. That's pretty cool. If you are just using the service for free, you can take part and you might get yourself a nice paid plus membership there. Is that not right? That's awesome. And so last month it was the feast, and it was pretty ambiguous. And this month the keyword or the challenge is weird sports. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think of most sports, I think they're weird. So, I guess we got to put our creative caps on. Alrighty, so that wraps up contests.
It can't just be cricket or, something weird that I don't understand.
Yeah, like sports that do exist and I'm not really a fan of them, or I don't know how to play them. I mean, you could give it a shot. So, you guys cool to talk about samplers a little bit?
Yeah, so we went recently, I think it was Witty in the support group to help me with something. So let's see, I forwarded here some examples just to make this quick here. So the difference between the samplers, I'm no expert on the math behind all this. That's why we have a computer do it with Stable Diffusion. But
yeah.
So it's how the image is resolved from noise. So I was having an issue. It might be hard to see, but I can see on this image there's some artifacts, in the skin It looks a little blotchy all over the place in a couple of these renders here.
Oh, the
With
jogging
XL.
lady.
Yeah, you can see sort of, and this is without the refiner. So sometimes that's, I wouldn't say it's expected, but that sometimes will happen without the refiner, because the refiner sort of smooths things over, but overly so. So I generally don't use the refiner, but you can see a little blotchiness on the skin. So a recommendation was to change the sampler to K Euler, but I always say Kueller for whatever reason. But you can definitely see it definitely smooths things out in a good way. And that's something you definitely want to use on a case-by-case basis, because you may get too smooth of an image or too fine of an image. So whatever your problem you're having, sometimes the solution is to swap the sampler. But you can see other details, like the road in the back is much more simple. But there's none of those.
Image for that one?
I don't think it was locked down, the sampler. This was the one that he had sent in. But you can see the background is a little more detailed than the other sampler. And this sampler is, let's see, what was it?
DPM2M.
DPM2M.
Yeah.
And to look at all the samplers that we have available, you use /samplers. And it'll show you all the samplers that we have currently. You can always request more samplers. You just have to convince Slack.
Yeah, we're looking at the SDE one right now. Getting similar results to the D2 one. The other thing I wanted to mention is we added a command called /vas. It's named after the guy that created the technique, and it is latent HDR correction. So you can add just /VASS to your render prompt, and it'll give you a slightly different composition. The colors will change a little bit. It tries to center the subject a little bit more, and it's kind of a segue to the after detailer feature that we also are just added. It's like a second opinion on what the correct image is supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. So before we go any further, I just wanted to quickly mention, and maybe this is can we get just the Cole's Notes version here, like a sampler? Now, is that basically just how, like the very, very simple reduced version, it's like how the noise is broken down and turned into an image, basically, like the math behind that?
That's the way I understand it.
I'd say so.
Something to do with differential equations, but I'm no Einstein here.
Yeah, like it's that deep sort of algorithm or something that it decodes, makes images pop out of the noise.
Yeah, like I had the Euler one. I think what I read is that one honestly goes back from math, hundreds of years ago, or ages ago, way before any of this existed. It uses ancestral, whatever they call it, the old ways of doing things.
We have a pretty nerdy write-up on our website if you want to dig deep into the tech of the samplers and what the difference between the ancestral ones and the non-ancestral ones are. Definitely check it out.
One
Put
of
it in the show notes.
I just want to show one last thing here and it's not these duck faces that I'm rendering here, but there was a picture we rendered earlier. I'm just going to scroll up to it. And we were just trying out different samplers to see the differences there, and it's pretty interesting. So here we have K Euler A, right? So when you render anything in Pirate Diffusion and you look at the image caption, you will see, whether you type it in or whether the system will automatically pick it for you, you will see a sampler in here among the other details, if the caption is not too long, right? If it didn't get cut off. So K Euler A, that's pretty nice, pretty interesting. There's no LoRa here. This is just, a very simple prompt. And then just by switching the sampler, we switched to DP-M2M, and nothing else has changed. And immediately you can see there's a little bit more textural detail, almost like pores. There's the skin has a little bit less of a glossy look to it. So before, and then I guess it's not really before and after, but just an alternate. I'll just scroll pretty quickly. There you go. It's interesting. Now, there's no like right or wrong. It's all subjective whether something is better or worse, but there's a lot of them. So like, for example, then rendered it at K Euler, right? So K Euler without the A, and it's a little different. There's just minute details here, but then we went to LCM, is the very low guidance, low steps model, and then we're trying to finesse it just a little bit in between the joggers. I'll scroll past the joggers here. So there we go. There's the original, and then Anyways, you get it. It's just a very kind of a cool and an easy way to just inject or sample different reimaginings of the same image to see what you might get. Now, one of the things that was just added, and it's still in beta, right? We're talking about After Detailer. Right. Now, you mentioned that.
That's right.
From my understanding, the After Detailer, it sort of reinterprets. It's like another interpretation of aesthetics in terms of hands and faces or something.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So one of the tools that we've had for a long time is facelift, which is an upscaler that you run after you create the image. After Detailer is scanning for specific types of content. Right now it's scanning for faces and hands. And as the render is happening, before you even get the first picture back, it is swapping out faces and hands based on mini models of what beautiful hands and beautiful faces are supposed to look like. So again, it's one of those subjective tools where you may like the result or not, but it's just we're always adding stuff to the toolbox, and it's a fun one, and we're going to add a lot more features to it and a lot more fine-tuned controls to it.
Yeah, so I had a good example from our pre-pro little meeting here. So I had a good situation where, Stable Diffusion is not always great at middle distance faces. It'll muddy them up. It'll barely make lips, or it'll do something weird like that.
Oh, like
so if you can see here, I put all these guys sitting around playing poker. You can see this guy's. He's got a little mushy face. He's got a mushy face. He's got a weird overbite. So I think I did 5 of these. So let's see. You can see each one has a little kind of wonky face. Some of them have no chins, lips. Some of them have double lips, some weird stuff. Especially this one, you can see this guy's beard. I don't think he even has a mouth. So this is without it. So this would probably be a good situation for it, because if you already have a close-up of a face, you're going to have a decent face. You can just re-render to get a better or different face. The detailer is probably good for these kind of situations, because if you look at these, you can see that all of these guys, they all have faces. You might not... This guy's face in the corner got squished a little bit, it looks like, but, you can always re-render that or crop it out when you're done. But for an initial render, these are pretty good faces at this distance. And you can see that all of them from this set look pretty good. Except for that, again. Wow. I think that is because the initial one, like you said, it hunts for faces. And I think this, you can sort of see 2 bodies here. The 2 jackets. So I think that it didn't know where one started and one ended. So that's why it's sort of beta. Because later you're going to have more settings to adjust those kind of things. But you can definitely see that every render from this that has a good in-focus face has a face. It has nose, lips, eyes, and ears. Especially this one. You saw earlier this guy had a little scrunched face. So this was a good example of how to get this kind of image better, I thought, at least.
And that's come up a lot as a community question, like how do we improve the faces? Because as the figure moves away from the camera, and as you said, it's no longer an extreme like skin pores closeness, right? Ultra close up. The faces they really break down, and it gets to the point where they're just like a smear in the background eventually.
And this looks like it does a double pass on your render and then replaces those faces. But again, you can see here it's smushed the two faces together, exactly. But that is likely just it being confused on where one began and one ended. So typically I would say probably just rerun this, maybe with a slightly different seed, or just run it again with a slightly different prompt until that, resolves itself, or change some settings, or
well,
not like use it at all if you don't prefer it.
It actually can. We had another example in the pre-show where we had a good hand to start with, and then I used a detailer on the good hand, and it added just like gnarly fingers to the lady. So it was like overcompensating the hand. So it can also backfire. But it's a beta release. We're going to add more parameters to it. Maybe the ability to control it with a threshold, or only do faces and not hands. Something like that. Also maybe adding it to in-paint, where you can check off like hands and faces.
So
cool.
I'd be interested to see how well that works. Right? That sounds. Yeah. I mean, you never hope you got a silver bullet there, but whatever helps, really. If it works,
new features to check. Always rolling out new toys to play with. It's super cool. It's not Christmas, and we still get toys on the regular.
Seems like every day's Christmas when you're here. You guys always got something new for us.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we've got another new feature. If you guys want to move on to background removal. Background replace.
I haven't even kicked the tires on this one. I've been
new. I don't know much about it, but I know.
Yeah.
I've seen some test renders, and it's pretty nifty.
We should try it out.
Yeah, it's super easy to use, and it's great that you guys brought up ControlNet, because that's the easiest way to use it. So I guess here in the episode 5 channel, I'll use the picture that you have right now. The BG command. If you do it, just reply to an image /BG. That will remove the background, and you don't have to specify anything else other than /BG, and that'll strip out the background. So what we've added is the ability to save a background as a ControlNet, as you normally would, and then you can do /BG /replace with the preset name, and it'll pop that into the background. So you don't have to remove it and then add a background. You can do it in one step.
I rendered out some cool background images here, and all Morgan did was he right-clicked on one of them in Telegram here, and you just hit reply so that it knows which one you are pointing it at. And then he just went ahead and created a control net out of it by typing /control new, and then that. Yep. And you did what? Lush forest? That's what you called that one? Yeah. There you go. You can see it right there. All right. Sorry. Please continue.
So in one step, I was able to replace the guy's background with the forest. You can see, it was a little too much, and there is a parameter where you can control it, called blur. So you can do /blur, and it's a value between 0 and 255 whole numbers. So you can give it like a feathering effect, just as you would in Photoshop.
That's so cool.
It's interesting what it chooses to eliminate. Like it removed the mask from the guy, and it removed the chairs as well. or some of the chairs. So
That
pretty,
is
I had an
interesting.
idea real
Pretty
quick
interesting.
to. I was curious if you then put this in Remix, if you could smooth out the transition and make it a little more seamless between foreground and background. Just a little, Let's see what it does.
That's a great point. Yeah. So we have a tutorial on our website, and I did one where I swapped out like a men's cologne with a beach background or something like that, and the reflections made no sense because you have a glass object and it's reflecting what was originally in the room. So by doing Remix, it will correct all of the lights, and it'll look a lot more cohesive. So that's definitely the
blend it
step
in. Unless you have to keep every little detail of something correct, but otherwise you're already in here, so you might as well smooth things out a little bit.
I'm kind of just going crazy with it. I've never tried this before. This is really cool.
And
even just as like a quick visualization. Whoops.
Isn't that fun?
That's super interesting. Wow. Yo, really cool. Yeah. And as you said,
so that's super sharp. Yeah. That's nice.
As you said, like to correct some of the lighting, even just slowly dial up the strength on the Remix. Would that do it?
Bit by bit, see if
yeah,
a little better.
Yeah, it would be cool to upscale that one. So, background replace, background removal. You can also specify a hex value, a hex color value if you just want to remove the background and set it to a solid color. That's also in the tool. And there's another mode. /anime for illustrations. So by default, the BG tool assumes that it's a realistic picture. So if you do /anime, it'll feather the subject a little bit better for illustrations.
Oh, cool.
Any kind of illustration.
Yeah, I guess
to think about.
We might need. Yeah, that makes sense. Different settings for different styles. Yeah, that's cool.
You might have more hair detail or something in an anime picture or something, I can imagine.
Now, we can edit this out if this is just a current failing or something, but like I noticed it cropped this one cropped my the image pretty aggressively. Wondering what's going on there. Yeah, so like here's the source.
Oh yeah.
And then I did a BG replace.
Yep. Check it. I think and I know let's keep it in. Some of the limitations are a resolution mismatch. So if one image was if you have a subject that's a higher resolution than the background, it'll zoom in or crop. Oh, so yeah, there you go. So the subject was 1024 by 1024, and maybe the background was 512. So it cropped.
I would either need to render a bigger background or a smaller subject.
Try to keep them as close as possible.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to try that then, just real quick to demonstrate. I'm going to facelift, like I guess it's a downscale. Facelift size 512 on this one. Let's see if this
I do that every day.
So we're reducing the jogger. So the source image is now 512. Looks pretty good. That's actually really, like the details really well preserved there. Super interesting. What the heck? All right, cool. So now it matches the background. So we can just say, what do we got? Lush forest. Man, I love that about Telegram. It's so fast to just stuff in there. There we go. All right, I'm crossing my fingers. Boom. Now all we need to do is a little bit of that's pretty freaking quick. That's pretty, like, of course the color isn't matching perfectly and the lighting is off, but it's like that saves you how many clicks in Photoshop?
You're pretty much already in the perfect tool to correct that,
Yeah.
It's 2 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the old days where we had to use our freaking mouse and like trace an outline all the way around with the lasso tool. And then if you sneeze and it goes all over the place,
Oh yeah.
son of a gun.
Then you got to burn and whatever the tools in Photoshop is to mess with all the lighting. And then halfway through, you realize I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's so funny. So that looks pretty cool. We can go back and just see, like, so original image, new background, so the swap, and then some attempts to remix it. Obviously, it turned the jogger, did a gender bend, so just switching back to specifying in the prompt female jogger, and the guidance is pretty high here. That's like 12, but yeah, I was just messing around, gonna get the lower guidance there, but it's so freaking powerful. It's like the, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm you know, over promising or anything, but folks, I gotta say, there's a strong contender for this to be the all-in-one tool for a lot of things. You know,
Definitely
magic.
You can do half your stuff here, tweak it, you know, elsewhere, pop it back in, all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna be honest again. This would take a little more work. Like if you're looking to blend things nicely, right, to match the color, match the lighting, match the aesthetic from any background to any foreground that you're swapping, it'll take a little more persistence. But for like good enough for something quick and dirty, like a draft image or a prototype, you know, any of that stuff, to just get something halfway there, it's more than enough. And then where you go from there is up to you. And it's just like I've used Photoshop for, geez, it's almost coming up on 2 decades now, and the speed with which you can get results like this is just I just typed in a thing and walked away and had a sip of my water while it did it. It's so freaking powerful. I'm jazzed. Okay, I'm sold on this. I'm gonna play with this.
Well, we're almost out of time, folks. Let's
Awesome.
Let's do some reader questions. First question is comes from Prime. Sometimes I'm rendering hot girls with barely any clothing on, and they are nude anyway. What's a good way to always get clothes?
Oh
my gosh.
I kind of figure it. If you don't specify any, if you leave out details in a render, it's going to sort of take the wheel. And so if you don't mention clothes whatsoever, but you use words like hot or sexy or something like that, you're probably going to get some more risque stuff. So the idea is put in things you do want it to render, like a specific article of clothing. So if you say a tank top, you're almost guaranteed to get a person in a tank top. Or, you know, it sort of pigeonholes you into the, like if you wanted to let it be more creative, you know, now you have to specify. But a way around that is you could say a summery outfit or a fall, you know, something like that, cozy outfit or something like that.
That's a really good point.
And just to add to that, if you say like floral dress and you put it at the beginning of the prompt, so you know the word order really matters, and it'll prioritize that clothing article above other things.
When dealing with things you don't want in the image, it's oftentimes just as good to use a two-pronged approach to negatively prompt what you don't want and to positively prompt exactly what you want. So, but not to confuse those. For example, if you wanted a person to be wearing a red hat and not a blue hat, you could probably just render person, or like person, comma, hat, and then in the negative prompt, you could just put red. Whereas if, for example, in the negative prompt, you were to put something like red hat, it might kind of screw up. It might not, because the word hat is in the negative prompt. Do you know what I mean? Like if you positive prompt blue hat and then negative prompt red hat, versus just say the color you don't want, because you do want a hat, right? Now I'm kind of getting a bit cryptic and maybe a little overcomplicated here, but for example, like with that question of clothes or not, if in the positive prompt you were to write something like is not naked, you know what I mean? It's not going to understand what you mean, because the word naked is in there. Versus like in the negative prompt, if you were to say like is not wearing or isn't without clothes or something, you know what I mean? Like, so to just keep it simple, as Eggs was saying, specify what it is that you do want instead, and it should be smart enough to autocorrect. Like, for example, I think one of the greatest ways of getting a full body shot is just to say, you know, like what kind of shoes are they wearing and what kind of headwear, and then it will just figure it out because it thinks, oh, I need to put both of these in the same picture. But anyways, I'm dragging it on here. Yeah, but it's just
that's a really
that's a
clever
good point. You know, it'll only ever really mess it up in that way if you're trying to like use control net and then that has no feet. You say I want feet in it. It'll jam feet in there, but it won't make any sense. But otherwise, putting shoes will get you a full body or something exactly like you said. So if you want knees, you know, put in shoes because to show the shoes and the blonde hair that you specified, it's going to have to show you the full body, stuff like that.
And absolutely. And one of the things that I've also been playing a lot with recently with just the priority, as I call it, the priority of details in a prompt block. Play around with it and juggle the words back and forth, you know, through. So for example, right here, just to go over it quickly, like I said, female jogger in the dark forest, because in one of the previous remixes, it transformed the jogger into a male, which is fine. But say if I wanted to preserve the original image, you know, I prioritize that. I put that first. If, for example, we were to put female, like say at the end, jogger in the forest, comma, female, it like there's you get what I'm saying. There's a very good chance that anything farther down the prompt block loses priority and the AI won't pay much attention to it. You might be fighting to get the jogger to be female, whereas if you just put it right at the front, then you should be good.
Think of it like an order of operations type thing. You know, it's going to do this, and then it's going to do this. Or if you know, think of it how you would just describe it in person. You know, the most important thing is going to be up front. You know, if you're describing a picture of a Jeep, you're going to say a Jeep in whatever location and then whatever features. Not necessarily all the features first or the location. Then you might not get a Jeep at all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. There's the old joke of like in English it's the red apple, and in French it's la pomme rouge. The color is last, which is kind of funny in terms of subject and adjective. But much in the same way, play around with it. Put your descriptors or minor details, you know, try moving them to the front, try putting them at the back. You'll realize there will be a point at which they will go so far down in the prompt block that they won't actually show up anymore. They won't be registered or they won't be relevant. So as you feel it out, you can also use, you know, if you're a little more advanced, you can use the tokenizer. We'll cover that in another video, but you can basically just see where prompts don't really show up anymore. Once you break, what is it? I think 50 tokens or something? Or am I imagining?
77?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So once you get to a certain point, the words will not have any effect. But if you put it, yeah. So if you put it first and foremost, and you just describe the clothes like before the subject, it might be a bit weird, but
and you make sure they never get cut off. You know, if you go too long with your prompt, but the most important thing is keep them up front. So
absolutely, and it's just
and consider,
another
like you
reason.
said. Sorry, I was going to say that it was all trained in English, as far as I know. So keep that. You know, if you do come from a different language, then that you should try to adhere to that because that's how it was trained, with the subject being up front generally.
Yeah, we do have for international users, we do have a translate parameter for render. So you can do, I think we covered it in like maybe episode 2 or one of those. We can put it in the show notes. But anyway, I think that's that's a good wrap for word priority and different techniques. A second question came in regarding facelift. They were concerned about how it can be controlled. So sometimes facelift kind of sandblasts the face. So we've added the strength parameter to facelift, so you can kind of dial it down, and you can turn off facelift face
Strength
correction
0 entirely.
with other parameters.
On facelift? No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And
So we just added that recently.
and if you you can always,
Maybe since
one thing to remember too is if you ever have a suggestion, that's a feature within Telegram. You can put in /suggest and put in whatever your suggestion is, and it'll get sent to the appropriate parties there. You know, if you want to add different upscaler models, suggest, and then it says
Cool
suggestion
Laura's that I see floating
233, add it to complaint file.
Oh yeah,
Tom,
everything is a
Tom's humor.
complaint. It's so good. Cool. I just used 0.5 strength on that on this facelift, and it doesn't even look like it's face. Like I can see the detail, but it definitely doesn't look all sandblasted away. This is 0.5 strength.
Yeah, a
There's
good
still
example of that is if you have a very, very
Details
high
there.
detailed skin, like a headshot
Yeah.
with a lot of skin details, and you don't want any of that removed, but you want the image to be 4K, you could just do that with 0 strength, and it'll take the image all the way up there. Meaning, you know, it may not enhance the details, but at that high resolution, it will generally look better, especially on a smaller screen.
And adding /photo after facelift. It's the photo parameter will also have a different effect, where it will. It's good for like landscapes, so it'll upscale but not look for faces. That's another way to have a different skin effect.
So this one right off the bat almost had like a CGI sort of like painterly look to begin with. So but you'll notice there is still like quite a lot of detail there. This was not like a photorealistic render, but very keen to play with this. Super, super cool.
Nice, a lot of good stuff today.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for covering this stuff together, guys. There was we talked about different samplers. We talked about the after detailer. We had a look at the beta preview. And then we covered the background replacer preview as well of that new beta feature. There's so many good things always coming out. And it's just a great reminder to just, if you haven't rendered things in a while, it's been a few days, maybe a week, and you haven't kicked the tires on it, pop back in, and wow, there's just so many tools, so many toys to play with, and hop in and, just give a heads up in any of the community rooms, and, everyone will be happy to fill you in. There's so much to see, so much to do.
Yeah, if you ever need a hand with any of that stuff we mentioned today, Control Net, the Fallout stuff, you can always send me a line, and when I get the time, I can give you some pointers.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say that's a wrap, gentlemen? We can say goodbye.
It's a wrap. If I could, I want to also remind everyone that we have a prompt inspiration channel. So if you go ahead and click on the prompt inspiration channel in the notes, you can see some really terrific prompt ideas to help you come up with your next great creation.
Absolutely. It's amazing. And again, just another point of it never gets old, it never gets boring rendering here in this community. There's so much going on, so many different styles, so many different cool ideas, and it's a testament to the social side of art. All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. Until next time, everybody. This was the Pirate Diffusion Show, once again brought to you by Gradient Platforms. Have a great evening.
Good times. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
You guys try to stay.
Take care.
See you later.